Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Today we will continue on topic 8, correlation and regression. Let's do a quick revision about what we had learned in the last lecture. In the last lecture, we already learned about 8.1 linear correlation, where you need to find the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient denoted by R, and you need to interpret R. And then we had learned about 8.2 simple linear regression. In the simple linear regression, you need to find the equation of regression line y hat equals to a plus bx. And then we already learned about determine a and b in the regression line using least square method. We also had interpret the coefficient of a and b. So now, in this lecture, we will learn about determine the coefficient of determination denoted by R square and interpret R square. So please prepare your pencil or pen, your calculator, your module, stay focused and aim A for maths. Topic 8, correlation and regression. Lecture 3 of 3. 8.2 simple linear regression. At the end of lesson, you should be able to 8.2d determine and interpret the coefficient of determination. D. Determine and interpret the coefficient of determination. Coefficient of determination, which is denoted by R square. The coefficient of determination is the square of the coefficient of correlation denoted by R square, where R square is greater than or equals to 0 and less than or equals to 1, which is given by R square percentage of the total variation in Y is explained by the variation in X. Whereas 100 minus R square percentage of the total variation in Y is explained by other factors. So student, you should know that this is the interpretation of coefficient of determination. Next, let's look at the formula in order to find the R square. So this is the formula in order to find R square. If you remember from the last lecture, the formula in order to find R is Sxy divided by square root Sxx times Syy. So, in order to find the coefficient of determination, which is R square, what we need to do is we need to square the R value. So, the formula would be Sxy divided by square root Sxx times Syy, everything square. Let's recall how to find the value of Sxy, Sxx, and Syy. So, these are the formula in order to find Sxy, Sxx, and Syy. Example 1. A student wants to measure the relationship between the monthly income, which is our X, and it is in 100, and monthly telephone bills, which is our Y, and it should be in 100 as well, among a college staff. The information for a sample of 10 staff is summarized as below. A. Obtain the equation of linear regression line y hat equals to a plus bx with the values a and b correct to 4 decimal places. Hence, interpret the value of b. So now, let's look at what are the formula involved in order to answer the question. First, we need the formula for b. B is equals to Sxy divided by Sxx. What are the formula in order to find Sxy and Sxx? So this is the formula. And after that, what we need to do is we need to find the value of A, where the value of A is y bar minus b times x bar. So now, let's start with finding the value of sxy, sxx, and syy. So, let's start with sxy. Sxy is equals to, let's put the values into the formula, where sigma xy is equals to 57,525 minus with 421 times 1165 divided by our n is 10. Because here the question state that 10 staff. So n is equals to 10. So the answer for sxy would be 8,478.5. Next, let's move to find sxx. Sxx is equals to 19,915 minus with 421 square over 10. Press your calculator, you will get the value of sxx is 2,190.9. And then syy is equals to 173,025 minus with 1165 square divided by 10. Your syy would be 37,302.5. So here we already have the value of sxy, sxx, and syy. So now, let's find the coefficient of b. b is equals to sxy divided by sxx. So, our value of b would be equals to 8,478.5 divided by 2,190.9. So, value of b would be equals to 3.8699. So, this is the value of b. And then, we need to find the value of a. A is equals to, y hat would be 1165 divided by 10 minus with b 3.8699 times with 421 over 10. Just press your calculator correctly, you will get the value of a is negative 46.4228. Please make sure your coefficient a and b should be written correct to 4 decimal places. So now we already know the value of b and a. Let's put into our linear regression line. So it would be y hat equals to negative 46.4228 plus with 3.8699x. So this is our linear regression line. Instead of y, you need to write y hat. Okay? And then after that, we need to interpret the value of b. So the interpretation of b would be, since b is equals to 3.8699, so the monthly telephone bills increases by 386.99 for every increment of 100 ringgit monthly income. So here, what you should know is, you need to times 100, where 3.8699 times 100. Why 100? Because from the statement, we already know the value of y should be written in 100. That's why here 3.8699 times 100, and we will get Rm 386.99. For every increment of Rm 100. Here, from the statement, we already know that our monthly income X should be in 100. So the increment would be is in 100 as well. So that's why here we write for every increment of 100 ringgit monthly income. B. Estimate the monthly telephone bills for a staff who earns Rm 5,700 in a month. So here we have the monthly income, which is our X, is Rm 5,700. As the data is summarized in 100, so what we should do is X is equals to 5,700 divided by 100. So our value of X will be 57. Our linear regression line is y hat is equals to negative 46.4228 plus with 3.8699x. What we should do is we need to substitute x equals to 57 into our linear regression line. So we will have y hat equals to negative 46.4228 plus 3.8699 times with 57. Price your calculator correctly and you will get the value of y hat is equals to 174.1615. Please remember, our value of y should be written in 100. So, here what we need to do is we need to times 100. Therefore, it will give us the value of y is Rm 17,416 and 15 cents. So this will be the estimated the monthly telephone bills for a staff who earns 5,700 ringgit in a month. C. Calculate the coefficient of determination, which is R square, correct to 4 decimal places and interpret its value. So these are the summation that we already given in the question. So what the formula that we need to have in order to find the coefficient of determination? First of all, this is the formula where R square equals to everything in bracket sxy divided by square root sxx times syy square. Okay, and then let's recall how to find the value of sxy, sxx and syy. So these are the formula. From the beginning, we already find the value of sxy, sxx and syy. So these are the values of sxy, sxx and syy, where sxy equals to 8,478.5, sxx is 2,190.9, syy is 37,302.5. So these are the values that we get earlier. Now let's put into the formula that we have. So R square is equals to everything in bracket 8,478.5 divided by square root 2,190.9 times with 37,302.5. It should be like this, and then you just press your calculator correctly. You will get the value of R square is 0.9379 squared. And then it should be 0.8797. So this is the values for coefficient of determination, R squared. The next part is we need to interpret the value of coefficient of determination, which is 0.8797. The interpretation would be like this. 87.97% of the total variation in monthly telephone bills is explained by the variation in monthly income, whereas 12.03% of the total variation in monthly telephone bill is explained by the other factors. So here, what you need to do is you need to convert the value of R squared into percentage in the interpretation. It would be wrong if you put like this, where you write here 87.97%. So it would be wrong. Your percentage is in the interpretation only. Okay, so we should write 87.97% of the total variation in monthly telephone bills is explained by the variation in monthly income, whereas 12.03%. How you get 12.03%? 12.03% comes from here. 100 minus 87.97. So here it will give you 12.03. So that's why here we write 12.03% of the total variation in monthly telephone bills is explained by the other factors. If you notice, the one that I highlight is you need to substitute with the value that you get. First of all, 87.97% is depending on the value of R squared. Of the total variation in will remain the same in any interpretation of R squared. Monthly telephone bills, which mean that this part will represent the Y variable. So here you should write your Y variable here. Is explained by the variation in. For this part, you should remain the same in any interpretation of R squared. Monthly income is referring to the variable of X. 12.03% is comes from 100 minus 87.97. So it will depend on the value of our R squared. Of the total variation in monthly telephone bill. So this will represent the Y variable again. So this is the pattern we interpret the value of R squared. Example 2. The marketing division of a company wants to study the relationship between the numbers of pamphlets distributed, which is represented our value of X, and the total sales, which is represented as our Y value, of a new product introduced to 10 residential areas. The data collected from each area is as follows. So here the data collected. From the data, we know that our value of N would be equals to 10. And then we know the value of our X variable would be number of pamphlets distributed. And then our Y variable would be the total sales. Okay, so that's the most important thing that you should know. Which one is your X, which one is your Y. Okay, after that, you should know that our X is written in 1000 and then our Y is also written in 1000. But the difference is our X is in unit and Y is in RM. Next, let's proceed. what we need to do is we need to find all the summation. So again, you need to scan the QR code here in order to find all the summation, and then list up all the summation. So these are the summation that you will get from your calculator, where your n is equals to 10, summation x is 163, summation y 133, summation x squared 2785, summation y squared is 1921, and summation xy is 2302. So what are the formula involved in order to find question A? What is question A? Obtain the linear regression line by using the least square method, hence interpret the slope value. First, you should know what is the slope value. The slope value is represented by the value of b from the linear regression line. So the formula involved here is you need to find b, and then you need to know your sxy, your sxx. And then you need to find your a. Now, let's start with finding the value of sxy, sxx, and syy. Sxy is equals to 2302 minus 163 times 133 divided by 10. Sxy would be equals to 134.1. This is the value of sxy. The next one is sxx equals to 2785 minus with 163 square divided by 10. So I will write here sxx is equals to 128.1. And then we proceed with syy equals to 1921 minus with 133 square divided by 10. Your syy would be equals to 152.1. So you already get the value of sxy, sxx, and syy. Now let's find the value of b. b is equals to sxy 134.1 divided by sxx is 128.1. The value of b would be equals to 1.0468. So this is the value of b. Please write correct to 4 decimal places. And then we need to find the value of a. Your a is equals to 133 over 10 minus with b 1.0468 times with 163 over 10. Press your calculator correctly and you will get your a is equals to negative 3.768. So this is the value of a. And then what you need to do, put the value of a and b into the linear regression line. Y hat equals to negative 3.768 plus 1.0468 x. Don't forget x. So this will be your linear regression line. And then what you need to do is you need to interpret the slope value. So the interpretation would be the total sales increases by RM 1000 46 and 80 cents for every increment of 1,000 units of pamphlets distributed. So again, here you should notice that our value of B 1.0468, you need to times with 1,000 in order to put in the interpretation. Because from the statement, the unit of Y is in thousand. In order to interpret, you have to times with 1,000. After that, for every increment of 1,000 units, here is referring to the unit of X. From the statement, the unit of X in 1,000. So that's why here we write as 1,000 units of pamphlets distributed. B. Estimate the total sales if 18,500 pamphlets are distributed. So first of all, you should know that the unit for number of pamphlets should be in thousand, right? So here, in order to write our X, we should write such as 18,500 divided by 1,000. So the value of X would be 18.5. And then what we need to do is we need to put the X equals to 18.5 into the linear regression line, where Y hat equals to the value of A is negative 3.7628 plus with 1.0468 times with 18.5. Press your calculator correctly, you will get the value of Y hat is 15.603. And then you need to times with 1,000 because our unit for Y is in thousand. So it would be RM 15,603 ringgit. You should put RM because our value of Y represented as the total sales in RM. C. Calculate and interpret the value of the coefficient of determination, which is R square. Correct to 4 decimal places and interpret its value. So these are the summation that we already get from the previous question. First of all, what is the formula for R square? So this is the formula. And then let's recall how to find SXY, SXX, and SYY. So this is the formula in order to find the respected value of S. So let's put everything into the formula. From the previous question, we already find the value of respected S. The value is for SXY 134.1, for SXX 128.1, for SYY is 152.1. So R square is equals to everything in bracket 134.1 divided by square root 128.1 times 152.1 square. So press your calculator correctly, you will get such that 0.9607 square. It would be 0.9229. Please remember you should write your R square correct to 4 decimal places. So how to interpret the value of R square? So the interpretation would be 92.29% of the total variation in total sales is explained by the variation in the number of pamphlets distributed, whereas 7.71% of the total variation in total sales is explained by the other factors. So here, what you should know is 92.29% of the total variation from the total sales here is explained by the variation in the number of pamphlets distributed. 7.71% of the total variation in total sales is explained by the other factors. If you notice that the highlight parts, you need to substitute with the value and the variable in the question. For example, here 92.29% is depending on the value of R square that you get. And then of the total variation in, this word will remain the same. Total sales referring to the variable of Y. The next part is explained by the variation in the. So this part will remain the same in any interpretation of R square. The number of pamphlets distributed, which referring to the variable of X. 7.71%. How we get 7.71%? 7.71% comes from 100 minus 92.29. That's why here we have 7.71. So 7.71% of the total variation in total sales. Again, you need to substitute the word here with the variable Y. Is explained by the other factors will remain the same in any interpretation of R square. So actually, this is the pattern in order for you to interpret the R square.